because it went from light to dark. I'm pretty sure there was like some like it was like it got, I don't know how the hell it did it, but it got to late night like fairly quick. But
Joe Burns stated that the night had quickly gotten late just after sunset and couldn't find the right words to explain it. However, I know exactly what Joe had meant. On April 3rd, 1994 at 2 a.m., Easter Sunday, the time had moved 1 hour forward, which changed 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. Which would mean that on that day, the sun would hang out an extra hour longer than it had the day before. Now, if you didn't set your watch on daylight savings time, you're gonna have a bad time, hence why Joe had such a hard time explaining just why the time that night after sunset seemed to have quickly flown by. Now check the police report and note when Nicholas Hartshorn, aka Dr. Death, showed up to the scene that morning at the Cobains and started taking photographs of the body just shortly after 11 a.m. Then take a look at Kurt's wristwatch. His watch shows exactly 10:30 a.m., which means that the photo taken at the scene was 11:30 a.m. Cause Kurt Cobain obviously never set his watch to daylight savings time, and this explains the proper date in which he died. Joe states Kurt had been there for just a few days, which is technically 2 days, and Kurt arrived on Saturday. Thus he must have died on Monday on a 94th day into the year 1994 on the 4th month. And the 4th day, which thanks to Joe's dilemma, we now have a distinction between the day of Kurt's death and the myth of the 5th. This would be in the early morning hours between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. Kurt Cobain needed to be whacked before he could catch a cab to the nearest notary public witness to sign off on his will and get the hell out of Seattle. The guns he bought were for protection of his daughter Frances Bean and wife Courtney against any armed intruders at the door. He was willing to lay his life down for them. She had made sure his fingerprints were up to date. Guns taken away after she called in a false report of domestic violence. She got the next arrest in the bag while falsely reporting suicidal threats made by husband Cobain, whose guns were once again taken away, except for one shotgun. According to a Spin article, she must have had that one locked away. The SPD reports it as a threat, and so when she places the missing persons report on him at 7 a.m. on Monday, she could now say the Rome overdose was a failed suicide attempt. Something she would never say if Kurt were alive. And on February 1994, a gun law passed restricting Cobain to ever obtain a firearm based on his history of mental illness, domestic violence, maybe suicidal as reported by the SPD. His fingerprints, if he tried it, would prevent it, and his chance to defend his life against the evil forces at play from taking away the one he loved more than anything, his daughter Frances Bean. Such a shame. He must have felt the same way by placing himself in such a vulnerable position in the company of heroin junkies who'd rather murder a man for heroin in exchange.